Good morning, Philippines, and hello, world! Welcome back again. It's 7:30 in the morning, and once again, this is
your Partner Race.
And it's time for breakfast talk.
So for today's chikahan, we will make sure that all of us will be full with new interviewing information.
That's right, partner, because for today's chika, we will be talking about corporate social responsibility, particularly under Chapter 11, Development of Sustainability, Reporting Frameworks, the case of Australia.
Yes, partner. This topic would be necessary for those people who own and are still planning to have any organization or business. So let's start.
Yeah, so before we start, let's have a brief informative guide for our whole topic for today.
This chapter aims to explore the literature regarding sustainability and extended reporting frameworks, catalog various typologies of reporting frameworks, investigate the motivation by organizations to adopt such frameworks, and identify the extent of their use in Australia.
So what is corporate social responsibility and sustainability?
Corporate social responsibility and the sustainability, or the CSR. So according to Anderson 1989, corporate social responsibility is defined on operating a business with reliable, sustainable, and desirable bases that respect ethical value, people, community, and environment. This definition more focused on the company issue and many wants to argue, and this led to further discussion. According to Repotex 2003, for being a true socially responsible, these four constituent components should be followed or considered. First, the environmental impact. Second is the corporate governance. Third, the social impact. And the last one is the workplace practices. For then, CSR is interchangeably. That means, whatever definition are acceptable as long as it defines CSR. For the reason that CSR is only a subset of sustainability as shown to the figure 11.1. So this is the figure 11.1, the relationship between corporate social responsibility and sustainability. For whatever organization to be sustainable for a long-term run, they must be financially self-sufficient. That means, company maintains solvency and can generate profits that equal or exceeds to the capital limit. If this primary goal has been met, they can now seek the need for socially responsible. Then, they need to ensure that their governance and workplace practices and environmental and social impact are still monitored that does not abuse its society's ethical values and beliefs.
Exactly. But before we dig deeper, let's have this brief overview of the history of development of the concepts of sustainability, which lead to an analysis of the 5 major frameworks covered in the literature that are to be discussed later on. So there are different theories in the development of sustainability. Some of these include the perspective of Howard R. Bowen in his Social Responsibilities of the Businessman. He described the social responsibility of the businessman as the obligation of the business to pursue policies, to make those decisions, or to follow those lines of action that are desirable in terms of the objectives and values. However, according to the CEED in 1971, used the term social contract to define the relationship between business and society, with the business major obligation being the provision of goods and services for the benefit of society. Increasingly, the importance placed on the corporate social responsibility by investors, analysts, commentators, and academics has grown, suggesting a shift in attitudes. And this change or shift in attitude has brought the 5 major frameworks, started with the agency view, which is the first framework covered in the literature.
At first, the notion that companies are using shareholders' money to engage in social projects was criticized. Freidman was credited with the agency view of the corporate sector and its responsibility to society. He believes that the business entity is accountable only to its shareholders, and its sole social responsibility is to maximize the value of the firm.
However, the agency view started to lose favor in literature as the corporate social performance, or the CSP view, gained attention in the 1980s.
Corporate social performance view. Corporate social performance provide a methodology for companies to evaluate whether they are successful in providing stakeholder satisfaction through social responsibility and corporate citizenship. According to Preston 1978 and Carroll 1979, they outlined the corporate social performance or the CSP frameworks, which includes philosophy of social responsive, the social issue involved, and the social and economic responsibility. So the overall view of corporate social performance does not only improve financial performance but also leading the firm to be more advanced in terms of competition.
The next one would be the
Resource-based view. The resource-based view is a managerial framework used to determine strategic resources a firm can exploit to achieve sustainable competitive advancement. This was developed by Russo and Proust. These frameworks give particular emphasis to the internal factors, which explain performance differentials between corporations and how they can benefit from such differentiation.
Next.
Supply and demand view. The supply and demand view developed by McWilliams and Sichel 2001, they propose that there are levels of CSR investment that maximizes profit while also satisfying stakeholder demand for CSR. Based in this framework, a firm level of CSR will depend on its size, level of diversification, research and development, advertising, government sales, consumer income, labor market condition, and the stage of industry life cycle.
And lastly,
Stakeholder view. The theory developed by Freeman explained that the stakeholder theory is a view of capitalism that stresses the interconnected relationship between the business and its customer, suppliers, employees, investors, and others who have stake in the organization. The theory argued that a firm should create value for all stakeholders, not just only shareholders.
Besides partner to better understand the shareholder value, let's first go deeper to the word or understand the word shareholder through these different theories about shareholders. So let's first start with the theory of Freeman.
Freeman defines a stakeholder as any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievements of an organization's objectives. This definition is still widely acknowledged as the landmark position in stakeholder theory. The distinction between those who can affect and those who are affected is considered crucial in understanding and defining stakeholders. The involved have the possibility to direct influence in actions of the firm, while the affected do not have any influence over the actions of the firm.
However, the dominance of the shareholder among all stakeholders is consistent with Freidman's agency view, which largely is seen as untenable in the context of CSR or the corporate social responsibility. The organization should acknowledge that it is also has a fiduciary duty and a moral obligation to all non-shareholder stakeholders. To a certain extent, the management of the CSR or corporate social responsibility has become stakeholder management, using stakeholder theory as a dominant paradigm. However, over the past few decades, the attitude of some companies have changed, rejecting the agency view of Freidman and instead embracing the stakeholder and sustainability concept of Freeman in 1984.
However, with the newfound focus on disclosure to stakeholders, there has been growing concern in the academic literature that the traditional financial disclosure framework by organization is insufficient because, first, it has failed to adapt to the changing nature of business. Second, that it no longer meets the changing needs of the investors. Third, that it fails to recognize a wide enough circle of users.
In attempting to satisfy this deficiency in traditional reporting, several alternative sustainability reporting frameworks have been developed. Some of these include
The Balanced Scorecard, the Jenkins Report, Tomorrow's Company, the 21st Century Annual Report, the Inevitable Change, Inside Out, Value Dynamics, ZRI or the Global Report Initiative, the Brookings Institution, Value Reporting, and the last one is the Hermes Principles.
However, still, there is no universally accepted framework that allows universal comparison of sustainability performance. In the absence of legislative prescription, organizations have been adopting these disclosure frameworks on a voluntary basis only to help them to communicate with their stakeholders. One of these globally accepted framework is
The GRI, or the Global Reporting Initiative. The GRI is one of the frameworks that is being adopted globally as well as in Australia. Currently, 38 Australian organizations have adopted GRI reporting. These leading companies are demonstrating to their stakeholders that they are meeting or exceeding those stakeholders' expectations of performance in the area of sustainability.
so that ends our topic for today.
So our topic was indeed fast, yet informative if you partners did listen and realize how important those things are.
So before we say goodbye, we would like to thank our instructor, Mrs. Angeli Torres, for as our motivation to create this kind of presentation, which really helps us to boost more our confidence. So once again, this is your partner, Genevieve Gonzaga.
This is RICA CALUMPANG, hoping you all are full with new information from our
Breakfast Talk.